Hey guys, so in this video we're going to go over the lower budget version of the Weapon Master Witchhunter crossbow build. And in this version of the build, so I wanted to keep it relatively low budget, so we're not using Hand of Wisdom in action, we're not using any of these expensive unique items, and actually the most expensive item I bought was a pair of boots. Pretty much, the boots are were like the most expensive item I bought. Anyways, more on that later. But did want to keep the build sort of similar in terms of gameplay to the actual medium and higher budget versions. So we have pretty much the same kind of setup going. We're still using the double herald chaining setup, because I think that is the best clearing option you can use. Hate on it if you want, but it is very, very fun to use. So anyways, that's kind of why we're keeping it in the build. And I did want to be able to clear up to T3 Xesht, so I did make the build able to actually kill the T3 bosses. Tier 4 bosses, I think we will need a little bit more damage, and probably once you get a Hand of Wisdom in action and maybe a little bit better gear, you should be able to kill them. But anyways, I haven't really tried them. I've tried up to Tier 3. Also did want to be able to do normal breaches in tier 15 maps, the map bosses, citadels, and what have you, right? I actually don't really have citadels nearby to actually try, but considering we can do tier 3 Xesht, the citadel bosses should be fine as well. So a little overview of the build. So the build is pretty much the same in terms of passive tree-ish. The idea, we're using the Weapon Master to get the big weapon swap. And then one difference in the build is we're no longer CI, we're going to be playing a life-based version of the build, and we're going to be using the Atziri's Disdain to gain about 1k to like 1.5k ES. And then we have a sustain coming in from like Grim Feast, and then Life on Kill. So our sustain in maps is very nice. We have nice ES buffer that's pretty much always going to be full thanks to Grim Feast. The life sustain from Life on Kill, very nice as well. So and yeah, we have the Herald Explosions and all of that in the build. Right, so the end result actually is turned out pretty good, I think. Alright, so let's do a tier 3 Xesht. You can see we do have 1 point removed, so it's only difficulty 3. And I think maybe you could push all the way up to tier 4, but our DPS I think is actually quite a bit too low to maybe do that. But I don't know, maybe you could if you're like, God Gamer and can dodge everything. But I think for now we stick to the goal of making it viable for up to tier 3. Anyways, so what I've done is, so basically in mapping and for map bosses and that kind of stuff, this is the setup that I'm usually running. And then if I want to do a harder boss where I know I need like every little bit of damage, so I bought a second ring basically, and basically just match the resistances on the porcelain ring, and so I can just swap them over, because you can see it actually is giving quite a bit more damage than this other ring, which actually only helps our clear. Okay, so that is what we're going to do for these harder bosses. Oh, and I guess we should ramp up our fresh clip, but I don't know, every time I ramp up the fresh clip, bad things seem to happen or kind of mess up. Alright, so let's try to kill him off real quick. Oh, we got the hand thing. I think we can blink away from that, yeah. So now we have to go again with our second kind of rotation, and we might be able to kill him off here before the hands come out. Yeah. Alright, pretty easy, right? At least it didn't really get out of hand, right? Because like a lot of times I wanted to show another showcase, but I forgot to hit record. But in that one, it was like hands were just coming everywhere, right? And it was got the most unlucky you could, set of abilities, and he was just spamming the hands, right? And I did want to show that off, but basically, you need to use your blink smartly, right? So don't just blink right when the hands pop out, right? Because they have a kind of delay, right? They'll kind of slowly come down, and then you blink away from them. Anyways, if you're just spamming blink, then eventually one of the hands are actually going to hit you, because you only have, 2 charges on blink, right? Alright, so let's run a map. This one does have a breach on it. Let's see if we have everything set up correctly now. So since we're running on a 5-link setup, Yeah, there's a couple of things. Like, so I'm just putting Primal Armament in Galvanic Shards at the moment, but if you like the faster attack speed, you can actually just, swap these around if you want. But I like it this way. The attack speed doesn't really bother me too much. But yeah, you can see our chaining clear with the heralds, pretty good, right? Some rare monsters are not gonna like die right away, but I think that's a given for this like level of damage. And so our sustain situation in maps is like pretty decent, I would say. So we have Energy Shield from the series Disdain, and then we have Grim Feast. So Grim Feast basically means that our energy shield is pretty much always topped off. We don't have to worry about, waiting for ES recharge or any of that kind of stuff in maps. And our life is also being recovered by life on kill. So pretty much all of our sustain in maps, I guess we get everything just by killing, right? So, and that ends up working out good enough, I'd say. Right, I think in this setup, so since we are running Blink, or I'm running Blink, because I think, so the way I like to build it is, so we get enough evade to evade just attacks, right? And then we use Blink to just dodge things, right? And I think you could either go Blink or you go for Acrobatics, right? Because I'm not running Wind Dancer, and if you run Wind Dancer and you get more evasion, you can probably go Acrobatics, but with this build, so I'm testing out a new unique that's actually pretty cheap, the Purtify Knight Armor. So this has 40% chance to avoid physical damage from hits and 40% chance to avoid chaos damage from hits. And the way I understand it is this would probably work similar to Blind for like physical attacks, right? So even though my evasion is only like 43%, for physical hits, this number is actually quite a bit higher, close to about 70 or 80, right? And same for chaos hits. So I think that this combination is actually quite nice, and also this armor does give you, intimidate. So that's like 10% more damage or increased damage taken. So I think, yeah, pretty nice armor overall. And let's go into the breach, right? So this is just a normal breach, right? But the, the Herald chaining is like still working good enough, I'd say, actually very well in a lot of these kind of situations. And yeah, with Blink also, I don't really have to worry that much about my movement speed. I mean, having movement speed is always good, right? But if you have Blink, then it's a little bit easier to play with low movement speed, or it doesn't really feel as bad, right? Alright, let's go over to this side of the breach. And like one thing I had the most trouble with when I was putting this build together was actually because since we are a life build, we have to build chaos res, and that meant suffix pressure is like really, really hard, right? Because you have to get all of your resistances, and then you have to get chaos res on top of that, and yeah, it was a kind of a nightmare actually, especially with this, the amount of uniques we're using, so like 1, 2, 3 unique items. It was actually quite hard, so what you could do is also just use a rare body armor, like something like this. The Purified Chest is quite a bit cheaper and will be more damage, but yeah, if you are having trouble with resistances, I guess you could always do that. But anyways, yeah, so that's a breach. Okay, so this is, I made the same kind of sheet, Google Sheets thing for this one, and you can see the total cost was about 4.8 divines. I didn't include the actual cost of the greater jewelers, which I kind of forgot, so it might be around 5-ish divines. Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. I guess we'll start from the top of the list this time. So first of all, rings. There's 3 rings in here, because like we mentioned, there is our first ring that we're using, this one. And this one is just basically capping resistances and then getting some flat lightning damage or increased lightning damage. Oh no, this is the porcelain ring, right? And I noticed that you can get some pretty nice corruptions for actually very cheap, like 5 exalts, right? And then crit damage bonus for like 5x. I just made the search include all of the good ones. And if that's a little bit you know, expensive, you want to save money, then just buy a porcelain ring for 1 Exalt, right? They're literally just 1x if you just buy the normal one. Okay, or maybe they're not, maybe they're like 3. Anyways, so that is the first ring, and then our second ring, this one is the one that we're going to replace our porcelain ring with. And then you just buy one of these rings that has the same amount of resistance as your porcelain ring, right? And then, and just get a lot of damage. Like this one's really good, right? Because it has physical, lightning, and increased. And if you do the increased attack modifiers, all 3 of these are going to get scaled up. Man, I should have actually bought this one. Anyways, yeah, so you can get some very good rings for like, these are like 1x, right? So don't just like buy the cheapest one, but actually look at the mods, right? If it has lightning and fizz, those are both really good. If it has lightning, like this one, like we looked at. Also, like these iron ring bases are pretty good because they have a little bit of fizz on them. But anyways, if you spend your time shopping, you can find some very nice ones. Like this one is definitely underpriced. Okay, so that's that ring, and this is our actual second ring over here. And this one, basically we need to get resistances and a little bit of damage, right? So that's pretty much all we're going to be looking for, and maybe some attributes. You can change it in the filter so it doesn't actually look for attributes because they're not that important, although yeah, you probably do want to get some attributes on your ring because we do need a lot of int and a lot of dex and a decent amount of strength. Next one, we're going to look at the Amulet. Now, this time around, thank you to whoever in the comments in my last video made a suggestion for adding the weighted sum. So I did add it. So now we have a weighted sum that'll find 50 spirit on the Amulet with the combined implicit and explicit modifier. So that's going to make the search a lot more accurate, and you'll be able to find quite a few more cheaper amulets this way. But anyways, on average, they're about 30 to about 60 exalts on the, or maybe going down to like 100-ish if you really want to get fancy. But all we're really looking for is kind of like the same as the last build, maybe some crit, some stats, some resistances, and that's pretty much it. If you can get increased energy shield or increased evasion, that's nice as well. The one I'm running is, yeah, it just only has some life on it, and then just attributes, strength, and that's about it. All right, so for the crossbow, pretty much what we're looking for is going to be just the base crit, then attack speed. And then since we're not using the Hand of Wisdom in action, we're going to be looking for actual like flat damage on the weapon. And I think around 400-ish DPS is what you want. I think the one I'm currently using is a 420 DPS weapon. Okay, so that is sort of the items we're looking for. And then yeah, look for one that has a good attack speed, high crit chance. Now, if you want to get a little bit more fancy with the trade, I'd say you put on something like this. So we actually look for some like elemental damage with attacks or like crit multi like this. There's not as many of them, and these are actually going, getting quite expensive, right? That's why like mine, it doesn't have the elemental damage with attacks roll. Something you can look for, and yeah, just kind of go through them, try to find some with good flat damage, some good crit chance, and fast attack speed. All right, so for the body armor, so like right now I'm using the Purtify Knight armor, and the reason I wanted to use this is, first of all, we get Intimidate, which is a 10% increased damage taken for the target, so that's quite nice for damage. It's sort of like 10% more damage-ish, but not really, but anyways, get the idea. And then it also does have the 40% chance to avoid physical and chaos damage from hits, and I was thinking that, since we are not playing CI, avoiding chaos damage from hits would be pretty big, right? And I'm not really sure how this works, but I believe it is sort of similar to how blind would work, right? So we only actually have 40% evasion, but for physical hits, we should have somewhere around like 85-ish%. Same for chaos. So in that sense, it does improve your survivability to those two quite a bit, I would say. The downside is, I guess, there's no stats on the item, there's no life. It does have a decent amount of evasion, but like not a lot. Okay, so that is one option, and then another one that's going to be a little bit less damage, like maybe, yeah, I guess 10% less damage, is just to use either a pure evasion chest or a evasion energy shield chest like this, and then you can, get some more energy shield. gives me like another 500 energy shield, and that'll be pretty big with Grim Feast, so we'll go up to like 3k with Grim Feast. And the nice thing about the rare armor is that you'll be able to get resistances, attributes, and that kind of stuff on the armor, so it's going to help make gearing quite a lot easier. But I don't know, the Pertified chest is actually very cheap. Like if we go look at it on trade, well, actually, yeah, they're like 10, 15, and this is like looking for a decent amount, decent rolls over here, right? Like 20 exalts, right, and that kind of stuff. So, I don't know, you can choose which one you want. If you're having trouble with resistances, then probably getting one of these is going to be better, right? And you can even get life on it. You get your attributes, get some resistances and that kind of stuff, because it's going to be kind of hard, I would say, to get resistances considering the amount of uniques we're using. Okay, belt. This time around, the belt is just going to have strength and then resistances. That's pretty much all we're looking for. So they're like, you know, not that bad, about like 15 to 20 exalts. Oh, we should probably update this. And the helmet, Aziri's Disdain. This one is just giving us a lot of energy shield based on our maximum life. Some damage is going to bypass that and go directly to our life, but that's actually kind of a good thing because it splits the damage and we're able to recover our energy shield with Grim Feast and we recover our life with life on kill, so it doesn't really matter if the damage is getting split, and it actually ends up working out actually a bit better when damage is being split anyways. So it doesn't really matter what we get on the helmet, just as long as we want this gain maximum life is maximum energy shield to be as high as possible. And if you want to go cheaper, then I have it set to actually look for a 32%, but you know, if you want to go a little bit cheaper, you can go down to a 30%, which is not that big of a difference, and they become quite a bit cheaper. All right, so let's go over the boots. Now, unironically, the boots, once again, the boots were the most expensive thing. I spent 2 divines on the boots. So that's almost like half of the budget of this build went into these damn boots. And I think I might have scammed myself because when I was actually buying them, I noticed that I had my filter, for some reason, was set to Divine Orb only, right? So it wasn't showing any of these boots that were being listed for Exalted Orbs. So I probably just scammed myself and spent 2 divines on the boots. But I don't know, for a 3-stat pair of boots, they are roughly about 1 divine-ish, right? So, and I think also what you could do is, instead of using the Fortify chest, you could just use a rare body armor with 1 resistance stat, and then you can get rid of 1 resistance over here, and all of a sudden your boots are like way cheaper, right? I don't know. Okay, yeah, so that's definitely one option to make things cheaper. Okay, so I've updated the boots, and actually the price has gone down quite a bit, so that's quite nice. Okay, so that's the boots. And then the gloves. Now the gloves, what we're going to look for is the ones I got actually are really good, and it's because I bought these. It had the attack speed, and then it also had the lightning resistance, and I think it had the dex, and that's about it, maybe with the evasion. And then I exalt slammed it, and I got the lightning and fizz, so I was pretty happy. But yeah, pretty much what we're looking for is I guess the dex not so important anymore, since we can actually shift some strength into dex, so you can kind of play around with this. But basically we need some resistances, and then either cold damage to attacks or lightning, because I guess the cold damage to attacks is going to help your heralds, right? So you get either one of them, but you can see they're actually pretty affordable, I would say. You get some lightning damage to attacks, attack speed, and then either double resistance or, you know, dex and resistance. Dex is going to give you a little bit of increased damage. But yeah, this is actually pretty much exactly the same as the one I'm using right now, except it just doesn't have the dex, right? But we have the lightning, the fizz, evasion, that kind of stuff. So yeah, pretty affordable, and if you spend your time shopping, you can find something pretty nice. So that is the gear. Let's go over the jewels. And so for this setup, we're going to be running 5 jewels only. You can actually get some more. There's another jewel by like nearby, like right here, and then one more you could grab up here. But anyways, so first jewel we're going to need at least one of these with life on kill. Right, so we want to get recover 2% of life on kill because I didn't want to run the cannibalism aura, right? It's kind of annoying because you need like a lot of spirit for that. All right, so get one of these, at least one, and then at the same time, you know, get some energy shield maybe, and then maybe get some like crit damage bonus, right? At the same time. So these are, you know, pretty affordable. I'd say like maybe 20x or so for one of these with the life gain on kill and then the energy shield and the critical damage bonus. And then all of our other jewels are going to be, I chose to go for evasion jewels, like evasion, lightning damage. There's quite a few things I threw in here. You can add some more if you want. Like we got some movement speed, attack speed with crossbows, attack speed, critical hit damage, and all this kind of stuff in here. And then we want to look for either energy shield or evasion. Okay, so that is the jewels. As for the Anoint, I'm doing, it's not pure power actually. It is the storm charged. Is what we're using this time around. And the soul cores in total, I'm using, I guess this is if you're using the Purtify setup, so I'm using a lot of these chaos resistance ones, right? And then we have one increased all elemental resistances. So that's, and then also these critical hit damage ones. So that's where, so that was that. And yeah, so overall, around 5 divines or so for this setup. Okay, so let's go over the skills for galvanic shards. We're going for fork, lightning infusion, nimble reload, primal armament, and then shock burst is fresh clip, elemental focus, contrary effect, and martial tempo. And if you do get a 6-link, probably 6-link your shock burst, and then what you do is you do something like this. And if we kind of ramp up the fresh clip, you can see we can actually get like over 100k tooltip with a 6-link in this setup with no Hand of Wisdom in action, which is kind of crazy, right? I'm actually quite surprised how well the build performed without Hand of Wisdom in action. And if we add a Hand of Wisdom in action to this setup, the DPS goes up by quite a bit. I guess we should look a little bit later in POB. Okay, so that is that, and then we'll go for the Stormcaller Arrow setup. We're going to have, it's the same setup as before, guys. I think you just go look in Mobalytics for these because, you know, I don't know if there's really any point of me covering them every single time. The Herald of Thunder setup is the same, so is Herald of Ice. You can go check these out in Mobalytics or in POB or whatever. And for the Cast on Shock, so this time I think this is the same setup I was using before. And if you don't have enough intelligence, right, because this needs, what, 191 intelligence, it is okay to drop down to a lower level version. Just note that you won't be getting as much energy gained. This setup doesn't really need any jewels with the meta skills gain increased energy. We're going to be, I think, proccing this on our offhand in 3 shocks. Yeah, it should be 3 shocks to get this going. Just with what we have from the passive tree and a level 19 gem, right? So if you have a level, what, I think it's 13 or 14, it might take a few more, maybe like 4 instead of 3. But you can always remove one of these, and yeah, anyways, so that is the Cast on Shock. As for Grim Feast, yeah, we just have Grim Feast. This one also, I did try with a level 13, I think is the lowest one you can use, and it's only 100 energy shield, and it felt a lot worse in maps because you were my energy shield actually started draining down now, like with level 13 Grim Feast. Now I swapped over to a level 19 Grim Feast. My energy shield is almost never dropping in maps because it's like double the amount you gain, so the sustain is like, you know, twice as better. I definitely think it's worth it to push all the way up to 191 int to be able to use the level 19 version. Okay, and then we have Blink. So, weapon swap sets. This is something I get asked quite a bit. So, like, how do we fit all of this in with only 150 spirit? And what we have to do is, for Blink, I have it set to both, weapon set 1 and 2. And Grim Feast is only active on set 1. Cast on Shock is only active on set 2. And then the Heralds are only, oh no, Herald of Ice is only active on set 1. And Herald of Thunder is active on both, I believe. Okay, so that's how I have mine set up. But I think you can fit all of these in, right? You can see we're running all of them. Because what, it's 30, 30, so it's 60, 90, and then this is 60, so 150. So if you can't run all of these for some reason, then maybe you have like precision or something, or clarity or something in one of your auras, and that would make it cost more spirit, so you wouldn't be able to run it. So check for those if you're having trouble. All right, and the passive tree. What's funny is it says I need 3 more decks, but that's just because my offhand set is for Stormcaller Arrow, basically. But I actually have enough decks on my offhand set because my offhand set has all of this decks, so it doesn't really matter, but the error still shows up. So let's go over the tree, and you can see quite similar to the actual build, except this time, so I was having trouble shocking the T3 Xesht in this setup, mainly because since we don't have a lot of damage, you can see our Stormcaller Arrow DPS quite low, right? So, or it was actually a lot less. It was like 1,400-ish in my previous setup. I wasn't actually going for this lucky lightning damage. I was just going pure crit. And the problem is that, well, Stormcaller Arrow crit is, well, pretty low, 8% crit chance. Because I guess all of our crit nodes are on weapon set 1, and in my other medium and high budget versions, we actually had enough damage, just flat damage from like Hand of Wisdom in action and that kind of stuff, to make the Stormcaller Arrow actually just shock no matter what. But in this setup, that wasn't really the case, and it was a little bit hard to shock. So I went into the lucky lightning damage with non-crits. Now this actually will help out our damage overall. If we look in POB, it says like 2% damage increase, but that's assuming that all of our Eye of Winters are up and we're like, you know, actually doing boss damage with the Eye of Winter setup, right? But without Eye of Winter, then this actually becomes a decent damage boost, and especially for our Stormcaller Arrow, since it is pretty much not going to be critting that much, this really helps in getting consistent shocks out. So that's what I'm running right now. And then after that, we do need attributes, and this whole cluster is quite a decent damage increase, right? It's about 15% damage for this whole cluster, so not bad at all, and this helps get our attributes. And so since we don't have a lot of attributes at the same time, we are kind of low on accuracy, so I got some accuracy here with the Falcon Dive. And then I think after that, this is all pretty much the same over here. Skipping some dex points here so we can pick up some other value nodes like this crit chance here, which is like 8% more damage compared to the dex, which is like only 2%. And after that, the tree is the same. We do have to kind of path up to here for weapon set 2 because we can't, just don't have the points to travel all the way up here, right? Anyways, this is the tree pretty much. And oh yeah, so also I had some spare points on weapon set 2, so I put it into like shock chance and a little bit of extra damage for the Stormcaller Arrow, but you can kind of put these somewhere else maybe. But yeah, this is the tree, pretty much exactly the same as the high budget versions and the medium budget version, kind of same idea, but just with worse gear. Okay, so while we're in PLB, I guess we can look at some of the modifiers here. So if you're wondering what the Pertified chest looks like, pretty much kind of something like this. You can see we'll go up to about 83% chance to evade sort of for physical and chaos hits. Okay, so we have the Decimating Strike, Eye of Winter, Emergency Reload, although this isn't super accurate because since we're not actually killing the boss in one clip, this isn't really active all the time, right? So in reality, this is kind of what our DPS is like. I guess we'll just keep that off. And then if we want to look at our max hit, Fizz hit quite low, about 3k, 10k on Elemental, not bad. And when we have Grim Feast in maps, this is sort of the numbers we're going to be having, so it's actually not that bad, I think. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the low budget version, guys. Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.